Hey everybody, welcome back to Spiritside Chat. It's so good to have you all here. Yay! Anthony Farrow said that he has a meditation he'd love to share with us. So Anthony, would you like to kick things off with a meditation?
Sure, no problem. Thank you. Okay, so let's get a bit loose up in here and relax into our space. You can keep your eyes open or closed. Just be comfortable. Nothing is required except being here now. And so, after taking a few breaths, just like you to put your palm out in front of you. And in your palm manifests a key. Any shape or size, material. The key that you want. Feel the weight of it in your hand and just make it real. And with your intention and in its own time, it lifts up towards the center of your mind. And feel that presence of energy you've manifested seep into your mind, working its way to the center. And as it finds the center of your brain, center of your mind, it slots in perfectly. And as you will the key to turn, a stream of water pours out, cascading and riddling through the body, finding its way to your heart. And taking a deep breath, that water sets into your heart like a sponge, absorbing the water, filling it up. You turn the key again. Water communicating to the heart, trickling down, being absorbed. All in good time. This key turning becomes rhythmic, and you start to feel the pulse. Each turn delivering nutrition to the heart, majestic comfort. You can put your hand down now, by the way. I was still holding my hand up. And as this rhythmic sensation flows from the mind to the heart, let it all be centered around the heart. The revolution and rhythmic sensation is now physically present in the heart space. And you feel that ripple out into all of you, your physical body, and all the space that you currently inhabit is rhythmically pulsing. And you follow it with the breath, using that pulsing to inhale and exhale, like so. And as you feel that pulse, be aware that this is your heart beating. This is your blood pulsing through your veins, your life force, the beat of the drum inside, following the melody of your breath. You can will the beat to change, slow, steady, fast, present, outwards and inwards in all colors. Communication of the mind to the heart is united in its efforts, their efforts. And as you will this to heal you in every way possible, physically mimic and follow the beat in however which way it manifests for you, rocking side to side or simply feeling and being more aware of the physical pulsing. And just let that set in for a while. Explore freely for a few breaths. And now, collecting all of that energy, it sinks deeper and deeper into your gut, the lower abdomen, and the base of where you are sitting, uniting the centers, the communication of the brain and the heart, sinking deeper and standing firmly on the ground of its foundation, the spine, fully alive and aware of this presence of energy circulating around the body. Let it crystallize wherever feels light. And when it is ended, you'll be ready. Thank you, and namaste. How are you feeling?
Really good. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you very much. Fantastic as always, Mr. Farrell.
Definitely feels like I deserve my bells on now.
He brought the bells. Yes. For those watching, he had a comment earlier. Yeah, and then he's like, maybe not actual bells. And then I think it was Liam was like, no, now you have to wear bells. He brought bells. So, happy new moon, everybody. New moon, I believe we're in Gemini, so that's very exciting. We were talking about this just the other day when we made the post about this, and we were like, what should the theme be? Like, what's Gemini about? You know, and there's a lot of like communication is a huge archetype for Gemini. So I kind of asked Liam if he would come up with an idea, a theme, and he said, communicating future goals in the now. So communicating the future goals now. And I actually want to pass it to you, Liam, to say, like, what are your future goals you're communicating right now, and what spawned that, and talk about it, share about it.
So
I get a view on Zen from Eckhart Tolle, who's one of my personal favorite teachers. And one of the most important things that I learned from Eckhart was separating psychological time and clock time. So psychological time is our mental concept of time, that things will be better in the future, that things will be better when this happens, or when that happens, or when I get this, or when I am this, or when I do that, or when I own a house, or when I'm off the grid, or whatever your personal goals are. Clock time is the practical application of time in our world. Say, Jordan, I'm going to meet you at Fort Garry Park at 6 p.m. tonight for the Pokemon Go raid, right?
Jolly good,
right? We're using clock time. That doesn't mean in my head I'm thinking, oh, I gotta get through this day. I gotta get to that time so that Jordan and I can have fun, and I'm gonna feel better then. But what about the now, right? So you separate those two. Clock time becomes practical life for meeting people and planning, and psychological time you realize is just feeding the ego. It's feeding this separation from the now. It's a mind strategy for avoiding the now, and you can only do things now. So we can make this plan now, but we can't actually do the activity now, but we've planned for it. So in my mind I go, okay, it's planned for, I'm aware of it, I've set a timer, a reminder on my calendar. Now I can continue with whatever this moment presents me. In this moment, it's sharing with all of you.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I'd like to open it up to you, Jordan.
Oh, to me?
Yeah.
Well, first, I thank you for everything that you shared. That was really good, like a good starting piece there. Honestly, now I'm just like, is there actually a Pokemon Go raid at 6? You know?
I was just an example.
No, I know. I'm trying to make a joke. But, so I guess the question is, right, that's, we're all on this call, but like we have this ability to extend into, like, kind of, you're talking about, like, almost like if we change the idea of psychological time and bridge that out to really like mind time of like expansive beyond the present moment, but still being rooted here, right? Like, you know, there's that sort of spiritual, psychological, or I don't know if psychological, philosophical is a better word, concept of, you know, being in a state of timelessness, you know, in the mind of God in these higher dimensions. All time is now, and all of this linear progression of this moment is like, if you were to zoom out of this dimension, you'd see it like as if we're like moving across a surface of a sphere or something like that. And you're like, oh, the whole sphere is right here, and the whole story is contained, the human race's story or whatever. But we're like this blip on it, kind of moving across it and in a experiencing it very linearly. So I think if we take that sort of both approach, but like what you're saying, like setting the goals and kind of expanding out to all of the present moments that are taking place and engaging with them, right? Then that kind of bridges the two together harmoniously, where you can be happy in the present moment and have your clock time of like, I'm really looking forward to that raid later or whatever, or whatever it is, and still enjoy the journey to get there, enjoy the journey through it, and then enjoy the journey after, right? Because there's that, my final thought, and we'll open it up here to the group. Also, welcome, Eddie. Great to see you, have you join in. But it was like a flower doesn't plan its whole life to be like ready to bloom, and when it blooms, it doesn't like explode out with fireworks, and it's like, ha, I am here, you know, like in this like sort of flamboyant expression of itself. And no, it's like kind of going through a seamless motion of like it grows and it blooms and then it falls. It's almost like what and dies and moves on to its next life, you know, and goes into the soil, becomes soil and dirt, and then grows into more. It's the same nutrients and changes and everything like that, and spreads seeds and does it again. But like I think that was an Osho bit that was kind of describing sort of like the natural impermanence of the flow. It's like a wave of the ocean, right? The wave doesn't like crash down going, huzzah, here I am. It's just like it goes and it moves and it flows. And it's such a natural continuum. And if we can like embody that flow, you know, some people might think that it takes the excitement out of things, but I like fireworks and everything, right? So come out, I think, like the enthusiasm comes as a natural result of riding that wave and really experiencing the harmony with life. Yeah, what do you guys think about that?
I have something to say, but I don't want to sort of keep talking. If anyone else wants to say anything, then yeah, I guess. But yeah, so that point, Liam, about you know, making this moment now and using that for, you know, presenting a future or creating a future is something that's really been quite it's held my interest for a long time. And this idea of building a moment, and you know, my personal story, I have sat in meditation, and I find that when you invest your thought into a future time of your choosing, or a potentiality, we'll call it a potentiality, when you invest your time into that potentiality, you give it the emotion, you breathe the life into it. And so I would say to a friend when I was sort of talking about this with him, that if I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to go to work, for example, and I imagine the moment that I open the door handle to leave the room, I'm going to tell myself that when I pull that handle, I'm going to feel good. And I don't know why, I'm just going to feel good. And so I will start to elaborate that potential moment with feelings and thoughts. Every time I feel something good, which will escape me due to time, I will invest it in that moment to be collected later on. When I open that door handle, it all comes back. The time loop is fed back into my reality. And so that's something we're all doing. I think that tacks on to the points that were made there. So I wanted to share that. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I just really love the whole concept of time and the progression that we're all going through here. For myself, I really like to look at it from the sort of like cycle perspective of a small cycle and a bigger cycle and a bigger cycle like that, you know, minutes combined together to create an hour, creating a day, a week, etc. And so I always like to just keep my standpoint or my perspective being really in the, well, how am I existing in this current space as of right now? And I extrapolate that further to go, you know, all of the potential excitement that I have for the future, or all of the potential maybe nervousness that I have for the future, or even in the past as well. All of that still worked out for a purpose to help me learn or help me grow or move in some capacity. And so I've kind of taken a step back and I look at this and I go, well, all of the events that happened in the past were perfect to lead me to this now. And so likewise, ever I am, you know, in my head about any hypothetical potential future past events, I can really like allow myself to let go of that, you know, I guess the pressure of having to manifest everything myself, and just go back to this, oh, it's good. There will be light, there will be love. And I like let a higher power manifest through me, and have that be my main thing of, I don't necessarily need to know when I'm going to feel good, or what events are going to happen, or how things are going to play out in that manner. I just set the intention of, regardless of what's going to happen, I know that it'll be the right thing. And if I'm confused as to how is this the right thing, then, you know, like that's what I'll pray for, and that's what I'll focus on, is just my own understanding of the acceptance of what is. But then that still opens up the door now of, okay, now then what is manifestation? And I think, to me, that's the fact that I'm focusing on the good in all of those experiences. My conscious participation in the manifestation process is now because my attention is the fact that all of those experiences were good and will continue to be good. And then likewise, I could look at all of those same experiences as being a detrimental or negative experience if I so choose to, and that sways the experience now in my own consciousness. And so if I'm the one who's at choice of how do I wish to experience this based on my own participation and perspective of it, I choose it to be good.
Speaking on time is always this enigmatic creature that everybody has a very profound experience with. And, you know, it's funny how we have this dualistic perspective of both this linear aspect as well as the unification of the entirety of the whole thing as one no past, no future, just now experience. And depending on where the perspective is coming from, there's the ability that some speak of, especially once they've gone through a sacred medicine practice or something like that, where they can experience the moment as the moment that is ever present, ever real, and is always happening through itself. And this is something that I've only been able to have glimpses of in my own experience, especially from anything that would be considered a regular experience. However, what I'd love to share is a story that is by a guy named Greg Braden. So many people really appreciate him. It's about interacting with the space. And the interaction is very interesting. And I like what you were sort of bringing up there, Aaron, when you speak on the experience of a conscious choice of how you participate in this now moment and how you integrate everything that is in this now moment based on choice. And, you know, what he said is something along the line, it's all about prayer and how prayer is being utilized. And he speaks about the 5 lost modes, or the lost mode of prayer. There are 4 others that are used quite often, and one of them is kind of like the supplication prayer, kind of like, you know, please grant me the ability to do this, or could you please, you know, help me be happy, or you know, that sort of supplication, sort of request style prayer. And there's a couple of other ones that we do so often. However, the lost mode of prayer is a style of prayer that was used by the ancient natives, and well, I say ancient, but is used by the cultures of the earth, and especially in the native cultures of the Central and the Central Americas, at least in the case that he's talking about. What he would do is he met with, he called him Gerald or something. It wasn't his real name, just to protect his privacy. And he was one of the shamans of the territory. And they had this ancient stone circle that even his elders had no idea where it came from, but for some reason it allowed for this thinning of the veils, so to speak, of the dimensional platform, whatever it is that helps to expedite the process of prayer coming through and experiencing the manifestation of said prayer. And what Greg thought is that, he said the whole idea was that it was the driest year yet in Sedona, and there was drought all over the place. People were losing all sorts of you know, their properties and things like that to this drought. And so he thought that Gerald had said, I'm going to pray for rain. But what had really occurred is that, and because of his understanding and psychology, he kind of had a slip there. What really happened was this gentleman walked into this stone circle, did held a specific mantra, spent about 30 seconds, left the circle, and said to Greg, all right, let's go and have some lunch. You hungry? And Greg kind of looked at him and thought, well, wait, why? I thought you said we were going to pray for rain. And Jared looked at him and said, no, you didn't hear me right. I said we were going to pray rain. And the difference was powerful, because the subtlety of praying for something implies that in this moment it doesn't exist. And if in this moment it doesn't exist, then how could it possibly exist to collapse into this space-time reality? So if it doesn't exist and you're praying for it, then all the praise for something will continually keep it just away from the collapsing into this space-time. And so what they did was he literally said, okay, well then, Greg asked him, well, what did you do? He said, now that's a great question. So what I did was I walked into the circle. I pulled through the ancestors, and I honored the directions, etc. And then what I did was I pictured myself in my village. I felt my bare feet in the mud. And the only way that there could be mud is because there was a torrential rain that had occurred. And I saw stalks of corn in the fields that were just huge, and I felt them on my skin. I felt them as I walked through them. The only way that could have happened is if there was rain. And he said, among other things, I just allowed myself to be there. And then what I did was I thanked the universe for the rain that had already occurred. And so as that happened, I thanked the elders. And that was it. It was that fast. It was that simple. And so they went about their day, and what ended up occurring is that there was no sign of rain on the territory for whatever. It was drought season. There was no signs of anything. And then suddenly that afternoon, this massive storm front just starts rolling through, and it rained for 3 days straight, to the point where it was torrential flooding as opposed to torrential just drought beyond imagination. Now, Greg asked him, what was it why did so much come? And he said, well, I don't really know that part of the prayer yet. He wasn't really trained on that part, apparently, from his elders. But the gist of the story is that we have the ability to pray something, not for it. And so in this idea of collapsing space-time, of being able to be part of this cyclical nature of time, but riding the resonance of this moment, the cymatic resonance of reality, it's praying as something that is the most visceral of the experiences that we can do, rather than praying for, because that allows it to collapse into this moment as if it's already occurring. It can't resist at that point. There's no resistance, because we aren't the resistance of it. And in those moments, certainly there must have been something to thin the veils a little bit, or to some degree. I experience those in my life all the time, and many people call them synchronicities or coincidences or other, things like good luck or good fortune, what have you. But really what that is that, for some reason, in some moment of your day, you just felt like you were in the experience of having that thing that was part of your world without any resistance. It could have been fleeting. It may not even have been practiced, but that's what it was. It's so ingrained in our being that the only time that it doesn't happen is when we start to pray for it, as opposed to just participate as it. So that's kind of the way. That was less of a conversation about what is time and what is the future, as opposed to how do we interact with time and our now that becomes our future in the now. So that was kind of, I suppose, my 2 cents on that.
Love it.
Yeah, I love that, Eddie. Thank you.
That was tremendously beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Just briefly on it too, like, it just reminds me of that kind of that Kabbalistic thing of like, don't pray for things, right? Pray for understanding. And in this case, like literally, like it's almost a prayer of embodiment that generates the waves of what's around you to come and what you described, like collapse into this dimension, into a particular thing. And I like that too. Like, you don't really know how powerful you are. It's like you did this meditation in this 3 days of a torrential downpour, instead of, he's like, you get a couple drops here, there, whatever, but like it came down.
Well, I did visualize mud and abundant cornfields, so it seems required that needed to happen. And actually, I just wanted to touch on something that Eddie said as well. The word coincidence is so often used, like, oh, it's just a coincidence. It doesn't mean anything. It just happened. But break down the word and you see it's coincidence. You're co-creating. So if you run into a person, my friend Luke, who's kind of I describe him as an atheist. He's not really into this, but he's open-minded enough. And he said, man, the stuff that you talk about, I never really believed until this one incident kept happening to me. I kept thinking of my cousin, and every time, every day that I thought of him, I would either run into him, I would get a phone call from him, or someone in my family would mention that he said hello last time that they saw him, and said, send along my hello to Luke. And he's starting to realize, well, maybe there's more to it than just a coincidence. Maybe it really is a coincidence. So I just wanted to share that because I always felt strongly about that. It's never an accident. It's always coincidence.
I've never heard the word incidence before, though. Is that like
an incidence, like like you're
okay.
having that co-creative moment, I guess is the way I looked at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. I'd also just briefly like to say welcome to Chemo, who just logged on. There's currently no picture available or video, but Chemo, if you're there, please, we'd love to hear from you. And if not, that's great too. We love you all the same. If you're having like technical difficulties or whatever too, you can just message
Hello.
on the little chat. Hey,
Hi there.
There we go.
Welcome.
My camera is currently switched off. I will try to do something in the settings, but I'm Kim from Denmark, and I've just been following spirit science for the last 4 years it is. I think 4 years, yeah. And right now I'm in Switzerland watching a beautiful lake, and you probably heard the birds before I switch off the microphone. And this is my first call here, and I'm just curious about what's really going on in these calls. And so far I like what I see and hear. So I don't have any specific things to share right now because I just tapped in here on the link. So, but maybe something will come up on the way.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, I hope we can get some video feed rolling at some point, because I'd love to see that lake and the view from Switzerland. And share some of that with everybody. But yeah, if you have anything to add on any point, please just don't feel afraid to unmute and jump in. It's so great to have you here. Thank you and welcome.
Thanks.
I want to actually just pass it to Chris. You've been sitting there kind of quiet for a little while, and we'd love to get some female energy in the group. What's flowing through you in this moment?
Well, definitely. Oh, sorry. There we go. It's definitely a challenge to be able to live the life as with this perception of time, right? Usually society and everything around us, it pushes us to live a life of the next thing and worry ourselves about what's coming after, and instead of living in the present moment. So it's quite a challenge. But I would like to share something with you. Something my dad taught me, and it's been like really powerful and very, very, very helpful. I'm pretty sure all of you have meditated in nature, and it's amazing because you can actually connect with this flow of life. But even though if it is raining outside, or you don't have the time to go out to the forest or connect with nature, simply like any plant that you have in your home, just sit in front of it, quiet, give yourself time to breathe, to feel yourself, but always with this plant in front of you. And without thinking what it is, don't see it as a plant, just see it as a thing that is in front of you. And as soon as you start to connect with yourself, to meditate, you're gonna start to feel this sync energy with the plant. And it's amazing how helpful they can be. Even just a little plant, they can definitely open the doors to this different perception of time, this different rhythm of the universe, this vibration that everything moves like as a magic concert. and once you connect with it, it's just marvelous. I don't have the exact words to express it, but I definitely share it with all of you, and I hope you have time to make it to to connect with this understanding of time, but from here, from the heart. And what a better help to do it with nature itself. So there you go.
Thank
I
you.
really
so much.
love that. I'm gonna use that. I got a little fern in the corner.
Yeah, this past weekend, Jordan and I and my older sister as well all got together for a Vipassana, or a silent retreat out in nature this past weekend. And so we got to get outside of the city to a small little lake, in the middle of really just a massive forest, and just go be still and connect with the plants, nature, ecosystems, the whole thing all around us, and just being in that environment and reconnecting with I would describe it as like the wisdom of nature. It's just very, very smart. It knows what it's doing. And to just reconnect with that whole pattern of the ebbs and flows of life is just a beautiful thing. I mean, one of the most profound experiences for me during that weekend was we went on this walk, and we walked by an area where a forest fire recently went through there and destroyed a massive part of the forest. And this was like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, so it was still like black charred ashes everywhere. There was like a good couple inches worth of ash on the ground. Like, it was really recently destroyed, but already there were incredible ferns and life re-coming to the forest. And even within a couple weeks, there was almost like a foot of green that had already started growing in the forest. Just how quickly it was already right back on the upswing. And it was just incredible to see the cycles of life inside of something so magnificent as a forest. And oh, it was beautiful. So yeah, no, nature is the true teacher there.
Seems like not a lot of people have a lot to say right now.
I was honestly, after Aaron was talking about the silent retreat, I felt that the silence was nice, because that's, we're always trying to fill. We talked about this. There was a discussion period during the silent retreat on the evening. It was like a 2-hour window on the evening of Saturday night. After a full day we did some walking meditations and some sitting meditations and stuff, and we kind of opened up the space about like what compels us to speak in the first place, and why is it that we always want to fill the gap of silence, right? Because the silence in and of itself is very powerful, and you can learn a lot about the space and the energy of everybody just by applying presence to it without needing to listen, or not necessarily. Rather, you are listening. You're listening to the energy of the space rather than necessarily the words. And it reminded me of there was a talk that we gave at a local crystal shop a couple months back about empaths. You guys might remember we did a Spiritside Chat earlier that day. It was like a precursor to our actual talk at this place. But at the end of that talk, this lady came up to me and she said, like, it was absolutely wonderful, and I have one piece of advice or thought that's moving through me to share with you, which is that, like, don't be afraid of enjoying that silence, because it seemed like you were just saying to me, seemed like you were always trying to make sure that there was something being expressed or communicated, and there's a lot of communication still in the silence. And it was just like oh, that actually releases that fear that I had too, because I was like, yes, I did. I felt like I always had to be either saying something or talking with someone or asking questions or having something needs to be happening. So really, enjoying that silence and seeing what comes forth naturally when there is a moment to break the silence. I think that it increases the quality instead of putting attention on or making sure that what is expressed is of value. So that, because it's sort of like this, an old friend told me one time, people are listening, so have something worth saying, or have something to say worth listening to, you know? Also, is it Kim? You got video. That's great to,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but it's great to see you put a face to a voice.
Kimo.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Just regarding the silence, one of my best friends, he did what you call probably you would call it silent sightseeing. Silent sightseeing, I would probably translate it into. So in Copenhagen, you can go and watch the whole city in silence, and it was really, really amazing because you went to all these places that are full of people, and you're standing in this crowd and just listening to everything around you. And the funny thing is that the people you connect, the people who are in the group, you're not supposed to speak to them, of course, because you're in silence and you never met them before. And all of a sudden, walking around in a supermarket or in the big places in Copenhagen, you just felt so connected that afterwards, when the silent sightseeing was over, you just felt like you got like 20 new friends, and it was amazing. Just what silence could do to you. Everybody experienced this in silence retreats, but it's really funny when you see it in a town like that, and it goes so fast. Yeah. So right now he actually moved from doing that to had made this whole program where he goes out to really big companies, well-known companies, and he talk about before you go into a meeting, everybody has to sit in silence for 1 minute, and then what it is all about is actually just being more effective at your company, at your work when you have meetings, because there's so much talk that you know, you're not ready to actually say the important things when they're there, and people are not really listening because there's so much going on. And it's really interesting when you start out the meeting in silence. Then when somebody says something, it has to be important, and so that works on a really high level. He's working with big companies like Microsoft and a lot of big Danish companies you wouldn't know of. But it's very interesting. He's come this far from silent sightseeing to doing this now.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really great. You reminded within me at a previous company I worked for before. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful, by the way.
It's
wow.
This is so beautiful. Normally, you would have over here, you would have a huge mountain going up to there with snow on, even today. But today, yeah, it's just so cloudy and raining all the day.
Oh my gosh, can we do a spirit science gathering retreat thing there?
Yeah. And we have a top roof where I meditate over this lake. So it's really beautiful place. It's near Zurich, down south, near Lucerne, and there's this amazing lake called Vierwaldstättersee. It's very nice. So, anyways, yeah. Let me hear. What did you say about the? That was interesting with your former company.
Yeah, we had practiced a minute of silence in meetings prior. We had done it, though, instead of at the beginning of the meeting, we did it at the end as sort of like a reflection. Let's all just take a moment to digest the information that has happened. And if there was anything else that needs to be said, to take a minute to really go internal, to listen in silence, if there's anything else that needs to be added before the meeting is officially closed. And that was always sort of like, it was like a standing meeting that we would do every single day. It would always end with a minute of silence to just make sure that everyone was on the same page. But I like the opening with it too, is like a great concept. And I think internally here, we might start doing that. Liam, our next meeting.
Sounds like a plan. and it's so funny that we come to the topic because a lot of being in the now is that silence. We're all on this journey. We're all seeking enlightenment, but I think a lot of misconception is that enlightenment is like getting a degree. Once you've got it, I can hang it up here on the wall. I've got it. I've accomplished it. It's mine to keep now. But it's not. It's not. Every moment is an opportunity to be in the moment or not, to be enlightened or not. Mm-hmm. And it's not something that is easily defined because you really can't define it. And I think the Buddha's simple definition of enlightenment is no suffering is perfect because it doesn't tell you what enlightenment is. It tells you what it isn't. So if you're still suffering, okay. If you're not suffering, okay, what's left?
Right.
And I find it interesting because when I was a younger man, still in high school, growing up with my friends in rural Manitoba, a lot of the high schoolers a lot of people went out to parties and would drink at underage. I was not part of that. I never felt it was something I wanted to do. My thing was video games and biking around with my friends. That was what I liked to do with my weekends. So, but in that, there is something that they share in common. Video games and alcohol both share something, and any recreational drug at a party really share something in common. Everybody who takes it is really just looking for the silence it brings their mind. When I played video games, it was just for the strategy part of my brain was active, but the verbal part, the verbal description, that narrator, that watching the thinker, right? That thinker that's constantly going, this monologue or sometimes dialogue with itself was quiet, and I could enjoy. Okay, I strategize here, I move here, I do this, I do that. Okay, and when I asked my friends, why do you guys drink? So just because it's fun, and when I push someone enough. With information, I didn't want to push them, but why? We finally got deep enough, and I felt they were inebriated enough that they could honestly show their true self. They could show their true self. And so I asked them, I said, you're being more honest than I've ever seen you. Why do you drink? And he said, honestly, just to keep my mind quiet. Just so I can have some peace and quiet on the weekend. And we grew up in the lake. We grew up in cottage country where people go for seeking exactly that. But they all do that same thing. They're all recreationally drinking. Or another thing that my friend who didn't drink was into, Kayla, was bonfires are the only comfortable social setting where people who aren't on the journey are comfortable in silence, because everybody can just stare at the fire. There's an object of attention that we can all share that isn't verbal, that makes everybody feel comfortable and it takes an awkwardness away.
Other than a television.
Other than a television, right? Because, yeah, then you're just following somebody else's story, but that mental blabber is still going on. At a fire, you can have everybody. And it was just really interesting and going, okay, well, if you cultivated that inside, you wouldn't need the fire, you wouldn't need the recreational drugs, you wouldn't need the television, you could just go anywhere, be anywhere, with anyone and have a great time in every moment.
Right.
You mean to tell me that you don't have parties where you all just like sit around in a circle and stare at your houseplants? Like,
I know, right? How
but one of the ways that's a party.
I know. Best kind of party.
It's almost like there's various levels of silence then, right? Like there's the physical not talking, then there's the emotional stillness, yeah, and then the mental stillness, which are very interrelated, of course, and then probably, you know, it's almost like once those are calmed to a degree, and I guess you can always calm it further and further still, right? It like kind of opens up that channel for, this is this thing that kind of relates to almost, I'll relate it to the kind of the work that at least that I'm doing, and I mean that we're all doing, but something I'm personally experiencing here, like with our office and Spirit Science lately, is I'm really trying to get into a state of being slower internally, moving slower, meditating more, reading more, and I still go through waves, you know, and I'll still watch things or YouTube or movies or whatever, but I'm really trying to read more and slow down and meditate and stuff, but at the same time, then when I like flip over and I'm here and I'm at work and I'm getting, you know, I'm working on new videos or whatever, it's like an exponential increase of speed of cultivation of new creations and videos, right? And I have my amazing team and staff and friends all as one thing there to help really what's make it, but there's a lot of things that are happening and a lot of work that's going. So I get to work and I'm like, and then emails here and the phone calls here and then back to videos and then editing and like it's a crazy thing, right? And then I'll go home and I'm like, oh, you know. So it's just relating this back to this idea of like the reducing of the layers of stillness. I think that when your mind is silent, your body's silent, your emotions are, and this whole body of consciousness is calm, it actually widens the channel so more information can come through. You have a clearer ability to actually express the most authentic to moving through you in any particular moment. But if your mind is cloudy or you're you know stressed or you're still in that kind of suffering, right, paradigm, but like really deeply or whatever it is, it really stifles, I think, the ability for expression to move through, you know, like so you just kind of you go off on tangents, or you just can't get the words out, or you stop mid-sentence or something like that. And so I guess it all just goes back to the power of meditation, right? And like that, doing that inner work to really smooth out the physical work and the work that we do out here. You know, it all parallels right back to the work that we do in here.
And in a lot of ways, that also shows your mental capacity for how well can you hold your goal. And what is your goal? Because if your goal is to be at peace in every moment, well, here's a great example. The sky was clear. It was perfectly nice blue morning. And then I watched 1 chemtrail, 2 chemtrail, 3, and I've spent many years working outside. I've seen them do it. I've seen them cover the sky again and again and again, and it's frustrating. And I'm sure Aaron will remember many conversations we had about this. What can I do in this moment? Well, my phone was dead, so I couldn't sign a petition. Okay, what else can I do? I can, as Eddie was talking about, the gentleman who walked into the circle, I can pray in this moment that we found a solution to geoengineering, and people as a collective came together and said, we don't want this. It's not working. Please stop putting aluminum in our atmosphere. And they did. And I just took that moment to imagine what it felt like, and I was at peace with it. Otherwise, my mind would start going, oh, those rich, whatever you want to call them, whatever you want to call them. I'm just censoring myself here. I'm sure everybody can fill in their own words, but you can get angry at them, but it's not going to accomplish anything. Now, in that one moment of, oh, this makes me angry, I can go, okay, I observe that I'm angry, but it's not beneficial to stay angry. So what can I do with this feeling? I know something's wrong. We need to do something about it. There's nothing I can do about it in this moment right now except to visualize the solution. Okay, a team of geoscientists came together with a huge backing of the public and said, you know, we don't want this. Gold would work, so we switched to gold, or we just realized it wasn't going to work at all, so we just stopped. And instead, we used all that aluminum to build a nice mirror-reflecting canvas, and we put it over the Arctic to slow global warming, or something along those lines, right? That's just what I, in that moment, imagined. But it can be anything, right? The point was, in that moment, I felt the power of the solution. Okay, it's done. We dealt with it. Even staying angry at it, it's not going to do anything. So in this moment, I'm going to feel that we've solved this problem and allow it to manifest itself whenever and however it manifests itself, because that's what I could do in that moment, and then I continued on peacefully.
Yeah, resolve it inside. It really just comes down then to the, like, that's the reality that we then have to move towards together, having these levels of communication, so that when there's a big enough wave behind it, we can actually impact some change. we open it to the group.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this brings us really nicely back to the communication aspect, which is just, as we bring our attention to any one of these topics, we bring new awareness and new information and new insights by sharing our own experiences. The collective understanding of any of these topics continues to grow. And to me, communication, I'm really, again, I think it was a Mark Twain quote, but I think I'm not 100% on that one. Might have actually been like Aristotle, but was a mark of intelligence to accept a thought as, or to not accept a fact as true or false, but just to entertain that thought, to entertain a thought without accepting it as true or false. That's the saying. And so I really like to appreciate that and just to be in the present moment and just communicating about these issues and learning the different perspectives that we all share and just growing in understanding of any of these things as we continue this open-hearted exploration into consciousness. One Spiritside Chat at a time, we collectively do bring more awareness to each little issue, and it just, like, that ripple effect goes out and creates waves, and it's something of tremendous merit that we have to still, like, hold gratitude and appreciation for, even if it doesn't seem like we're changing the world with these little YouTube videos or live calls. Like, they're hugely important, and I see and appreciate that, and it just hits my heart so good. I saw Joshua too, you had taken
let me turn off this loud AC real quick. All right. I had something. Honestly, you have all spoken on some seriously deep thoughts that have literally been swirling around me for the last 2 months as I've been going through this latest growth phase. And I came across this explanation of, that now moment you were talking about earlier, and how we're always in this now moment. So if, this concept of we're always in this now moment, then every other moment is another reality, a parallel now moment. And so what we're consciously doing with those choices is we're choosing which now moment to move into next, like frames on a film strip. Except instead of being a film strip that runs in a line, it runs like an infinite number of spaghettied out directions. And we get to pick which one of those we tune into by what vibration we create. And we create that vibration by choosing to feel that way right now. And I really love that concept you just put forth, Liam. It really moved me, and that's what made me want to speak. Is that's such a beautiful way to deal with frustration, anxiety, feelings of hopelessness, feelings like that's something that's bigger than me. Well, the rain is bigger than you too. And yet our ancestors have been making it rain our whole existence. And we can too. And how we do that is up to us. And I just love that, the beauty of that concept of just feel like what it would feel like right now if we all came together with that solution. This theme of communicating our goals for the future, right now, speaking of synchronicity, is hilarious, because right before we started, some random happenstance got me on my Facebook timeline, and those little questions they ask you, I've only ever answered one. And the one question was about, what's your future goal? What do you want to do with your life? And my answer was, I want to help a billion people come together in an ecstatic state of union and harmony in my lifetime. And I think that this community, just like you said, Aaron, this is how we do it. You know, we don't have to hit 1 million views on this call in this week, you know? It's about time, and we're spaghetti stringing out. So we are affecting 1 billion people right now in this now moment. And how does that feel? I don't know about you, but it feels pretty ecstatic to me. Way better than any recreational drug I've ever taken. I love you.
It comes to my mind when you say this about the masses and how many people we need to push, and it's so hard for everyone to imagine that we have to lift this whole community of people to a certain level of enlightenment and understanding and love and sharing, and what makes me happy, because sometimes I can get a little bit like, shit, we're never gonna make it, but I just think that you don't necessarily need like a whole crowd, and Jesus, he only had 12 people around him, and he did pretty damn well. So we can do so much if it's the right crew. And one of my teachers, he always says to me, we don't need passengers, we need crew. And it's very interesting when you that's for the projects we're doing. It's not meant for the Trump thing, and he's just gonna go and do his own work, and everybody else can go die. But it's not meant like that. It's meant for the company that if you want to achieve something and you want to go somewhere with some goals, you don't necessarily need the masses. And that's a modest, nice way to approach things in life, and it makes me relax a little bit, because then I'm not in such a big rush to do everything, and I believe that the universe will provide me with the exact amount of workload that I can endure, and then just go from there.
Thank you. Well said. I like that.
I'm writing that one down. That was gold. Thank you for that. We don't need passengers, we need crew. You're right. 110% right. I love that idea.
Let's get tribal.
I think Marianne Williamson once said something to the effect of, and this is slightly paraphrased, of course, but it's not our light, it's not our darkness that we're all afraid of. It's our light, it's our power, it's our ability to truly affect change. So many of us that have stepped into even a small amount of that has seen just how impactful our everyday thinking, emoting, and of course action can truly be. And so, when it comes down to goals, and I think, I really like the idea of the whole, we don't need passengers, we need crew. I think that applies across every human being on the planet. We need stewards of this place. Now, I just read a statistic somewhere, and I'm not sure how accurate it is, but 4% of the world's population is the indigenous cultures of our world, and they're holding the fort for 80% of the ecological systems on our planet. We need to reverse that. We need to make sure that all of the numbers are up to 80% or 100%. We need 80% of the people to 100% of the people taking care of 100% of the ecological spaces that we have to care for. And that all starts with stewardship. It starts with the stewardship of our own mind, body, spirit. And then, of course, as we were sort of talking about on the last call, it's the ecosystems. You know, if we have these ecosystems that we plant these seeds of ascension into, then those need to be fully capable of handling all that we are. And all that we are is so much more than just these physical beings. Obviously, we are a cacophony of the polyphonic nature of this reality, this vibrational system of events that is all arising in this wondrous symphony of life. So if we allow ourselves to get into the alignment of that wonder and be the stewards of what we can control and take care of, you know, as you were talking about earlier, Liam, being able to go into that space, you know, you look and you see, it's funny that you would mention, you know, that sort of chemtrail thing. It happened between me and my partner just a few weeks ago where, you know, I looked up in the sky, she's like, oh, look at that cool cloud. I was like, yeah, that's a chemtrail. And she actually got upset because it was a happy moment for her, but it wasn't a happy moment for me. And it ended up being a larger dialogue and things like that, and justifiably so. Like, why should I pop someone's happy bubble? But there was a larger dialogue that went into that. But at the same time, my choice in that moment could have been better, in that I could have stabilized into something that was a happy, cool cloud, and maybe, you know, not to be in an illusory sort of state of positioning. It was what it was, but the qualities of the mind, body, spirit alchemy that occurs, you know, in very much that prayer that we began with earlier, how much, and this is a question that I pose to the world, is how much of what we have the power to influence can influence in ways that we don't currently have a model for. You know, how much of what we influence has the ability to shift reality in an instance, where water would become wine, or where aluminum and barium and all these other heavy metals in a cloud become wonderful raindrops feeding our cornfields. You know, how do we do that subtle shift collectively? But it has to start individually. We're all stewards of our own being. So how do we start with our own individual being, allowing this to occur, and then come to that collective state of all of us truly co-creating nothing short of, for lack of a better word, heaven on earth, and heaven as the cosmos. That's a question that I would pose. Goals for me are in the moment. So if we want to talk about goals are in the moment things where we're wiring the frequency. The goal is to be in the frequency. It's not always easy, because we have our mind, body, spirit. We have the external sort of the exoteric experience that's going on all the time. These are constantly happening, but the practice and the path and the sort of, you know, the enlightenment, as you speak of there, Liam, you know, we choose in the moment. Are we in the moment, or are we not? Are we choosing enlightenment, or are we choosing to be still asleep to the magic, the beauty, the miracle that is life itself? So it's in that presence, it's in that choice. Are we choosing stewardship, or are we choosing that destructive nature? And it's not always and or. It's sometimes it has to be both, depending on the circumstances. But how do we set in that? How do we stay still in that? How do we become whole in that? That's the goal. If ever there was one, there's small little things that we're going to do, like build a business, or you know, shake our friend's hand, or, you know, help walk someone across the street. Those are subtle goals and subtle circumstances that require our attention and action and full presence. But they're minor compared to the resonance that we're holding to be the steward of this place, because everything else will be able to grow from that space. So that's just a small version of the many things that could be expounded from that, but that's the seed, the stewardship of this mind, body, spirit space, and then moving from there into the ecosystems, into goals and goal setting, building our lives. I hope that's nice around the goal idea, and how we're setting them and what that looks like from a future perspective.
That was amazing, Eddie. It was really very well said, brilliant, and provokes so many different thoughts. you know, we're speaking about subtlety, the subtle actions as well. And, you know, we know that we're dealing with the subtle body when we're talking about the spiritual things. And I think all of us being here is a testament to how powerful the subtlety of life can grow, and when that seed flourishes. And, you know, you highlighted the stewardship, and I was recalled to this memory of, I was actually meant to be going to America, and me and Rita were walking around my local area by my childhood house, and you know, exploring some of the childhood places. And I was walking through some of the alleyways or some of like the greener areas that are in between all the houses, and they were kind of, they've been abandoned. There's rubbish, there's you know, trash and overgrowth everywhere. And so I thought to myself, oh, it would really be good if you know, if I was here for longer, I would go and clean these places up. And I was thinking, you know, that might spur some more children to play around here, and maybe bring some life to this little part of the community. But the whole point of that, it was catalyzed by me perceiving that I would not be here any longer. I would be gone. So you know, it's like, I want to leave this place in a nice way. I want to know that others are going to be happy and things like that. And now that I'm back here again, that's actually just been pushed to the side. You know, that's another thought that just was lingering around there until you spoke just now. But with that whole subtlety and stewardship and this whole communication topic we're discussing right now, those little acts go a long way. And even something that we did a long time ago, like, I know, you know, a lot of us have these talismans or totems and things we wear to remind us of things. We have pictures and paintings all around us. They remind us of something, and we're constantly feeding that back. I want to return to this like communication aspect of the investing your energy into the future or into the moment now, but this feedback loop and communication aspect of it is that when we are
I think you got muted at some point.
oh,
yeah, there we go.
I think I touched my keyboard like I'm touching things. So yeah, I trailed, but I was basically saying that, you know, when we act and even when we, you know, like I'm holding this carving tool, it's communication, and I'm communicating with the energy in this, but I'm also communicating to myself. If I pick it up gracefully and you know, speak to it, not speak, but, you know, commune with that in a graceful way. Slowing down is a great aspect, as you brought up as well earlier, Jordan. That's slowing down, and these talismans of reminding us to do these things that emphasize the subtlety in communication and the power of it is really something quite phenomenal. So communicate with everything. Treat everything as though it's your family, as though, and it is. And give it the same respect you'd give to an elderly lady who needs your help. Yeah, so that's completed. Thank you for all of you. These conversations really bring back a lot of memories for me, help me I'm reminded of who I am and who I want to be, and where I'm going. And I'm glad that we're collectively taking part in this. We are changing the world every minute of every day. Your thoughts now change your actions, change other people's perceptions, change the world. So thanks.
As always, it is such a joy to share with you guys on these wonderful calls. So we are getting close to probably start winding it down. If there's any like final thoughts that anybody has just on the topic of communication, goals, silence, any of these things, I would invite you guys to share it now. And then if once that moment passes, maybe we'll draw a card, do another meditation, and say farewell. So yeah, thoughts.
Go for Aaron. Go.
I just want to say we got a lot of like really exciting things that we're still cooking up in the background here, and so just like know that we're making something incredible for you guys, and there's always something around the corner, but we got some really exciting ones this time, so stay tuned. Is that elusive enough? I haven't given away enough.
You didn't give anything away. It's okay.
So we'll keep some things a secret. I feel like we've talked about certain things before anyways, like, you know, with the new cards and everything like that.
But they don't know. If you leave it up to a mystery, it could be any.
Well, I'm more of the general type to be like, here's all the things we're working on. But as well, for people watching on the video side, we'll just throw out there that we're getting really close to being done the next nutrition episode, which is about what's called the dirt on agriculture. So we'll give you that'll be just think about that, what all of it could possibly entail. And then we've got one more in the series after that, and we'll be finally done the saga of nutritional health, and we'll be able to put together 33 food movement to that. And then you know, from there it's really probably a mix between the tarot and Kabbalah episodes, and then the big one, the Nibiru, the human history prequel. And that one I've mentioned before, so everyone knows that there's this in the works. We're cooking something up big on it. So maybe we'll do a teaser trailer in like a month or something like that, you know, or hopefully less, but we'll see. There's a few other little video projects too, maybe a couple of like little remasters on some other older projects, but we'll just let you sit with that one too for now. There's so many different things, and our goal is to have like 1 to 2 videos a week. You know, a minimum of 1 spirit science episode, and then if there's one for, you know, like a promo of something. As some people have been commenting on the recent video we posted yesterday, you know, it's like you just about kind of finding the balance. Some people actually they're really in balance, like having 1-to-1. And honestly, I just want to express I'm so grateful to be partnering with other people and groups in the world that are doing really good work. Because this is sort of where some, and again, it's mostly like the hater groups or whatever. Not everybody. Some people have expressed their concern or whatever, but it's like, you know, we could be partnering with McDonald's or the banks or something to do things, and we're really trying to like make a difference and make some good motion in the world. And being able to connect with other people who are doing the same thing has been just like, it's really been really uplifting and creating a lot of good healing and sharing of information for a lot of people, you know. And it's the whole goal of it really is to just kind of keep the studio rolling, because we moved into this office, but weren't to pay for it. I'll just be completely honest. And so the goal is to just have that breaking even point so that we can keep rolling and keep making spirit science and not have to worry about resources. And for anybody who is watching who had any concern about, like, because there were just some comments, you know, I take everything to heart, and I have to let everything go and everything, but there were some people who were just, you know, kind of expressing that, like, oh, you're just interested in money. And I'm like, no, I'm interested in my family and my friends who are working with and for me in Spirit Studios and Spirit Science, and I want to make sure that they're compensated fairly. So deep gratitude first to everybody here in the studio, and Eddie, and everybody who's participating, all of you guys for participating in Spirit Science and making all of this happen, because it's because of you guys that this thing is reality. And then also deep gratitude to Gaia and loving support to help. They love spirit science and they want to see more of it happen. And we found some ways to work together, and I'm just really excited about that too. So yeah, thank you all.
And I'd just like to take an opportunity to also thank all the Patreon supporters. Even if you're only sending $1 a month, everything helps, right? It's that intention behind, this is something I believe in and I want to be a part of in any way, shape, or form. And really thank you all. And it is, even if you were just sending us like a dime in the mail, just for fun, you know, just to say, hey, I care about you guys, you know, just thank you, really thank you. And I'd also like to mention that even though it was a promo for Rhythmia, it really is an open invitation for anyone who can make it. And just to those that I was reading in the comments yesterday about financial issues, I say this: imagine what it would feel like right now in this moment if you had the finances to book your ticket now. Start with that and go with that. Start feeling like, okay, yes, I can go. Yes, I can make it. Start imagining yourself. It really is an invitation. And I'd really like to spend time with all of you and have an opportunity to speak with you, and as time allows there, it really is an invitation to everyone who watched the video. If you can make it, please let's go and have this amazing experience together and converse. And with that, I also, if we have a moment, I just wanted to kind of wrap things up, because there's something Eddie just said that really resonated with me, and that is that a lot of people are afraid, and a lot of people who reject the law of attraction are afraid because all of a sudden it's like it's putting the responsibility of the condition of the world on them. And when I first found that out, my biggest objective in my mind was, oh, I'm a logical thinker and that just doesn't seem like science. But then as I did deeper meditations, the real reason was I didn't want to be responsible for all the pollution in the world. I didn't want to be responsible for people like Kim Jong-un and Trump and people who are running a dictatorship or committing genocide. And I didn't want to accept that. It was hard. And I had to go deep in within my psyche and say, no, these are the darker parts of me somewhere. And I never thought I was like that. I never acted like that. And my friends said, no, you're not the manifestor of all those things. But you know, that's still surface, and deeper in, when you observe it and you feel a reaction to it, you are feeding it. And one of the things last weekend was I was talking to my friend Cole about plastic pollution. And we were looking at this beach in Mumbai that was covered in plastic. There was no sand. You couldn't see anything. And he's like, oh man, this is disgusting. I said, well, what if I told you that people are good-hearted and generous and they care about this world? And I showed him another picture, the same beach, cleaned up a year later, not a single piece of trash on it. And he went, wow. And in that moment, he and bring up that if we don't clean up our inner pollution, we can never clean up the outer pollution in the world. Today, Trump could pull a 180, go, you know what, I was wrong, everybody. The environment is important. We're going to be an environmental leader again. We're going to show the world. We're going to ban all non-recyclable materials. We're going to clean up the world and get huge fines for litter. You could put every law in place to clean up the world, and you could take every action to clean up the world. And realistically, a huge global cleanup effort, let's say tomorrow, just hypothetically, everybody in the world goes and cleans up something, cleans up their community, cleans up their rivers, their lakes, their oceans, cleans up their beaches, cleans up their backyards, their houses. Everything is clean, and we can recycle everything. The world would find a way to pollute itself, either between a large volcanic eruption or maybe a meteor. Something would happen. If we didn't clean up the inner pollution, it would just externalize itself again. So we really do have to start with the individual. We really do have to start inside, as Eddie said. We really do have to. It starts here, right? It starts with the woman in the mirror, or however, it starts with you. It starts on the inside. So as we believe we can make it as a collective, humans are waking up. It doesn't matter what camp they fall under, right? That's a judgment. We're all human. We all live on this planet. We can all come together. We can clean this place up. We can make this world clean. We can instill something like the Venus Project, where we are living in a resource-based economy. Money doesn't exist. Everybody shares everything. We can live that, and we can start right here, right now. So that's all I wanted to wrap up with, just a little message of hope.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I think also just because you brought this to my mind and my heart, which is that if Trump tomorrow did a 180 and said the environment is important, I've had a change of heart, we are going to clean everything up, I think that would instill, or that would compel a natural change in heart in so many people. Do the internal work that would result in an external result of everything being clean. Yeah. And then other people would change out of fear, because if they litter, they're going to get fined $1,000.
Right.
So there's.
But I think that fear would still create some kind of a mess, whether it's tornadoes.
Oh,
or,
certainly.
You know,
I mean, if you're
natural-
living from fear.
Right. So everybody would have to come to that place where, no, I'm doing this because I want to do it, because I want my, not even my children necessarily, I don't know if I'll ever have them, but future generations, I want future generations to be able to live on this world cleanly, in a better condition than when I was born in 1993. And better than my parents, my dad in 1945 and his dad in 1908. You know, just
got the dates memorized.
Just cleaning up the mess so that we can all continue to live here and enjoy this beautiful planet and show our appreciation, because she is our mother. Everything in all of us, all of this matter came from the earth, and it will go back to the earth when we pass and bring it back to a state of harmony.
Yes.
So as anyone who is also a fan of Abraham, the one who is in touch with source or in that flow or in the vortex is more powerful than millions who aren't. So can one person really change the world? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes.
Okay. Thank you, Liam. With that, does anybody have a card? Deck of cards?
I do.
Oh, I think he's got. Take it away, Josh.
Oh, I'm trying to find where the camera is. There we go. It is the Six of Cups.
Oh, one of my favorites. So many just flowers and joy, and it's like such a loving communion of two souls who are just deeply in love, and not just like in like sensual love, but this love of life, like with each other together as a unified body of like the yin and the yang meeting each other in perfect harmony.
How
And
synchronous is that with the new moon and Gemini idea going on? You know, Gemini is the twins. So you got two who love each other and work in harmony. And, you know, they're in that state of joy. Isn't that just what we were just talking about a moment ago? Just feeling that in this now moment. And the next card I drew is Illumination.
Oh, perfect.
Well, that was Scorpio, so you've got double suns there too. That's a lot of light.
So I would say that if anybody needed a sign, that should really help them bring it home that there's a lot of light shining, and it's not just coming from outside. We're the ones shining it. So feel that joy, feel that love, open up, talk to each other. It's okay.
Thank you. With that, is there anyone in particular who has a compulsion to share a meditation, a closing meditation for the group?
It's been a while since I've done one.
All right, Mr. Aaron Samat, take it away.
Be happy to. Again, just in the idea of community and coming together and expressing joy and gratitude. Let's all just take a really deep breath together. The understanding, the knowing, the feeling that we are connected, that we are supported, and that we are so not alone in this journey. As a single spark can set a forest fire, this single moment can set a movement within us, accomplish any of our wildest dreams. And in this moment, our belief and our gratitude for being able to participate in these experiences helps drive us towards that reality, brings it closer to us in the now. And so we say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for every experience. Thank you. Thank you. Sit in silence, in the feelings of joy and gratitude, appreciation, humble respect for all that we've been given and all that we give back in this flow of life. As we all breathe together, can open our hearts together, embrace each other's differences, as we grow together, one family member at a time, one heart at a time, one moment in the infinite now. So mote it be. May peace, love, and light flow through you and is you as we go forward throughout our days. Thank you for being here and all that you are. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Aaron. That was beautiful, as always.
Thank you. Namaste.
That brings us to the end of our call. Thank you, everybody, so much for participating and watching and chatting. I wasn't on the chat, but Liam was, and I hope he had wonderful conversations as I'm seeing a wildly large amount of purple hearts, which is really, really awesome. So it's a lot of love.
Thank True Living for that one.
Thank you, brother.
But there's lots of hearts from everyone, so lots of love. Nothing but love in the chat. So.
Is that Summer? We have to give a shout out to Summer.
Definitely
Yes.
a big shout out to Summer. Love you, Summer. Awesome.
Love you, Summer.
And too, it's great to have you. I hope we see you again next time. He might have just frozen this moment. The video's not moving. But if you heard me, Kimo, we love you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Oh,
There we go.
It was a pleasure.
Mm.
I will definitely try to make it for the next one. It was really a pleasure to meet you after all these years. And thank you so much for everything.
Excellent. Yeah, we look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Ciao.
Many blessings.